sobrang dami ng tanong tungkol sa long service payment at severance payment. So we're gonna actually focus on that today because we want to address all of those questions that we have about long service payment. So I guess Manisha can help us on this one, right? So the main question is, under what circumstances can a foreign domestic worker or a worker in general claim long service payment or severance payment? Okay, magandang gabi mga kababayan at maligayang araw ng kasarinlan ng Pilipinas sa inyong lahat. Today is the 123rd anniversary of Philippine independence. My name is Shad de Guzman and tonight we will again open the Help Desk, a live Facebook session dedicated to all our kababayans here in Hong Kong who want to ask questions about immigration, employment, and human rights issues. The format is simple. You ask and we answer. Meron kayong tanong, sasagutin namin yan. Tonight, I'll be by myself, and since I'm just moderating, I will need the help of an expert from a non-governmental organization based here in Hong Kong. Mga kababayan, nagbibigay sila ng libreng payo at tulong tungkol sa employment, immigration, at human rights issues. Actually, the help desk would not be possible without our partner in this project, which is Help for Domestic Workers. Now, without further ado, we'll be joined tonight by the Executive Director of Help for Domestic Workers, Manisha Vijay Singha. Manisha, good evening.
Hi, good evening, Chad. Hi, everyone.
Nice.
Happy Independence Day.
Thank you so much. I mean, all of the Filipinos have been, are commemorating the 123rd Independence Day or anniversary of independence in the Philippines. So, Manisha, like always, I just want you to introduce what Help for Domestic Workers does.
Thank you, Chad. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me this evening. I'm very honored to be with you on your Independence Day. So I'm from an organization called Help for Domestic Workers. Help provides free advice and assistance for domestic workers. We advise you on your immigration, your labor rights, any issues related to criminal cases or civil cases. So we're there really to help you in any questions that you have. And then we also have programs that will help you in respect of your mental and physical well-being. So really we're there to be with you through your entire time in Hong Kong.
Okay. Now, Manisha, thank you so much for introducing what Help does. So I just want to say, over the past few days, nakatanggap kami ng ilang mga tanong sa inyo mula sa aming Facebook page. No? We posted a call out for all of your questions on Facebook at sobrang dami ng tanong tungkol sa long service payment at severance payment. So we're gonna actually focus on that today because we want to address all of those questions that we have about long service payment. So I guess Manisha can help us on this one, right? So the main question is, under what circumstances can a foreign domestic worker or a worker in general claim long service payment or severance payment?
Yes, thank you very much, Chad. And long service and severance payment is actually one of the most frequent questions we get from domestic workers, particularly because it is quite a difficult area. It's a bit complicated. So I'll try to break it down as much as possible. Let's start with long service payment. So long service payment is something you get when you have worked with your employer for more than 5 years. So that's one requirement that you need to have when you are eligible for long service payment. And the second, you need to fulfill one more thing. And that can be one of a few conditions. Your contract finishes and your employer doesn't renew it, or your contract is terminated, but it has to be terminated by your employer. You retire because you're over 65 years old. You leave your job because you are permanently unfit for work, and that usually you have to have a doctor's certificate, or if unfortunately you pass away, your family can claim long service payment. So you have to fulfill one of those requirements, and you have to have served more than 5 years. So those are the requirements for long service payment. Now, the second one, severance payment. Severance payment is something that you can claim after you have worked for 2 years, or usually what we say is 24 months. And the second requirement for severance payment is that you have to be terminated due to redundancy. Now, redundancy is something that a lot of domestic workers ask us, what is redundancy? And redundancy usually means that you are terminated because the employer no longer wants you or needs you. So you have to show that you have worked for more than 2 years and the employer no longer needs you. So those are the things that you need to show long service payment or severance payment.
Okay. Manisha, I'm curious, right? So redundancy, you said that it's always being asked. Para sa mga kababayan natin hindi nakakaalam ng redundancy, sinasabi po ni Manisha that it's about your employer no longer needing you. We have received several questions, actually. For instance, if my employer decides to leave Hong Kong and decides to, would I be able to claim severance payment because of that? Does that count as redundancy?
Yes, definitely. That's a very, very easy answer to give. So if your employer is leaving Hong Kong, it's very easy to show that obviously your employer is not going to be in Hong Kong and therefore doesn't need a domestic worker. So in those cases, those are actually the much easiest ways that we can show that that's redundancy. If you have finished 2 years of employment and the employer leaves Hong Kong, which means the employer doesn't need you, that's severance payment. So you can then make a claim for severance payment.
Okay. Now we're talking about redundancy, or we're talking about long service payment, and we're also talking about severance payment. But a lot of the foreign domestic workers, a lot of the workers actually have difficulty calculating how much they're supposed to get when we're talking about, when they're talking about these dues that need to be settled with them. So how do you calculate this?
Okay, so both severance payment and long service payment actually have the exact same calculations. They're quite easy to remember. And the way you calculate it is you take the last month's salary. So let's say your last full month. So let's say you were paid 4,630, and then you take 2/3 of that salary. Or in other words, you divide it by 3 and multiply it by 2, and then you multiply it by the number of years you have worked. So let's say you worked 6 years, then you multiply it by 6. If you work 6.5 years, you multiply it by 6.5. So that's how you calculate both severance payment and long service payment.